Welcome back, fellow shop rats. Today we're going to continue on with a topic I started a while ago about sending the wrong message to young people about the cost of this hobby. Wow, there's been great comments on that video, and I want to pick up with a topic that a lot of people have talked about. Is it's not just the cost of the vehicle, but it's also the cost of the place to work on, because housing is expensive and having a shop is almost impossible. And well, you know what? I got stuff to say. I'm sure that surprises you. I'm Mike, and you're watching My Car Shop. A lot of the comments were very valid, definitely, but I also want to say that there are a lot of assumptions that people make, especially coming into something like my channel and seeing my big shop that can hold 4 cars and a full machine shop and all the stuff that I have. Now, yes, I'm older, but I certainly don't have much money in any of that stuff. It's all been looking around at what's available, laying at my feet and picking stuff up that nobody else wants and doing something with it that most people couldn't do. But that's not the point of today's episode. Today we're going to talk about shop space. It's a hot topic, for sure. Don't think for a minute that I've always had a shop that big, because I haven't. It's the biggest shop I've ever had in all my nearly 60 years of life. But I want to go back to the beginnings of where I started with this insanity, because most of the work that I started when I was in high school was done in the driveway of my parents' home. And then I lived in an apartment and had to sneak doing stuff in the apartment parking lot, which was against the rules, but as long as you got away with it, you could do it. And if you got your fingers slapped, then you didn't do it until you did again and then got your fingers slapped, and always pushing that line. But I've lived in a whole bunch of different situations, and again, to me, it's once we set our mind on what we think we have to be able to accomplish something, then we immediately defeat ourselves. I'm a possibility thinker. I tend to be the kind of person that doesn't see obstacles, and I am the kind of person that would charge into hell with a squirt gun and think I can just take care of it all and put out the fires. But I understand that about 80 to 90% of the population aren't like that. So we need to talk about what's realistic for everybody. I've always said, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you don't have a friend named Will, then you have to find a different way. But let's face harsh facts. When we really, really want to do something, there's nothing, absolutely nothing on earth that's going to stop us from doing it. So let's talk about where I've been a little bit more. So parents' driveway when I was a teenager, married housing parking lot, my own apartment when I lived in Indianapolis when I was going to tech school. There's been a lot of different places that I've worked, but there's more. After married housing, we lived in a small house, a rental, and I was free to work in the driveway as long as I didn't make a mess. And I would put cars up on jack stands and work on them in the driveway, and when I was done for the day, I'd have to put them down as much as possible, or throw a cover over it so you couldn't see that it was being worked on. A lot of stuff I would take down the basement of the house and work on there rather than working on the driveway. There was always a will, there was always a way. And yeah, at that time I was working in a hot rod shop, and the owner would graciously allow me to come in and do some things there. Also, I was a college student at that time, and the university shop was available for projects that could be accomplished during the class, which was, I think, 3 hours. So the point is that there was a will, there was a way. But there's more than that. So after we finished college, we moved south, and that first house that we had a garage, but it wasn't available, so I had to work in the driveway, which was dirt. And I've almost always had a classic car of some kind, or a collector car of some kind, but we're not going to get into that now. I'll just say that it was not ideal conditions. And then we moved into a place that had a pole barn that I was allowed to use about a third of it. So I did have a shop there, and I did a whole bunch of work. In fact, that's where I did most of the tubbing on the Pro Street GTS. And then we moved to Wisconsin, and that place had a 4-car garage, but we weren't even there long enough for me to be able to do anything, and we had to move back to Michigan because my job transferred, and we lived in a freaking apartment, and I begged, borrowed, and stole shop space from people, asking favors of friends, and finding unique situations where I could work on my cars. Then we bought a house. That's where I finished the Pro Street GTS, and I also restored my 1931 Ford Model A. And you think, oh, that must have had a nice garage. Nope. It had a large yard shed in the back that I could stick a car in, and it had a 3/4 size garage attached to the house. I had to get super creative in how to work on stuff there. I built a thing that would go in the garage door that would extend the garage out about 4 feet when I worked. It was kind of a fold-out thing, put the garage door up, shove that in place, do the work, take it down, push the car back in, close the door. But there was literally no room in the front or the back of the car. You couldn't even walk through there. That's how small that garage was. And I was able to do a ton of work on both of those cars. I had one of them in the backyard shed, and the other one would be in that house garage. I did a lot of work in the driveway, much to the chagrin of the neighbors. There was always a will, there was always a way. When it came down to getting real serious about some bigger fabrication work I needed to do on the Pro Street GTS, like putting in the roll cage, I borrowed shop space from a buddy of mine and had the car over there for just a couple of months to do that job, and then brought it back home again to do the rest of the work on that car. One thing led to another, and life got super bad in the early 2000s, and we lost our house and we were homeless, and I was again borrowing and stealing favors from people to keep my cars. Then we moved into, we were actually living in somebody's basement, but I was still working on stuff, asking favors from friends and returning favors for the favors I got. That's a huge, we've already talked about that on an episode. And then we ended up with a house with a 2-car garage for a short time, but we weren't there long enough for me to be able to really do anything other than a couple jobs on daily cars. And then we ended up in another place that did have a 1-car bay in a pole barn that I was able to use. And we were there. I actually painted a couple cars in that. The landlord was gracious. And then 14 years ago, we bought the place that we're in now. Now, you could look at what we have there and say, well, yeah, but look at what you have now, and nobody could afford that. I'm not going to tell you what I paid for because it's none of your business, but I will tell you, we got it. We stole it. We got it for pennies on the dollar, just like I buy everything. So don't think that deals aren't out there even in the real estate world. Now, there's more about the current My Car Shop. The current My Car Shop was falling down inside. We had to completely rebuild the structure of that barn. And you think, well, it had to cost a lot of money. Nope. It cost a lot of work, a lot of time. We got hardwood from the Amish. It wasn't very expensive. Huge, big 2x12s and all that stuff. Well, I think we had a few $100 in the wood that it took to rebuild that. And we did it in 3 phases, and we did it over a period of about 5 years. So you look at it and you think, well, that's a big, beautiful shop. You know what? It was a turd when we got it. It was bad. I mean, really bad. All of the beams inside were termite eaten and rotted. And I used to park the 47 in there, and it would end up with termite dust on the car. When I took down the one beam that was doing that, when it hit the floor, it literally turned into powder and there was nothing left. That's how bad it was. Okay. So here's my point in all of that. I don't want to get into how we all rebuilt the barn and all that stuff. My point is this. When you see obstacles, you will do nothing because the obstacles are overwhelming. When you see opportunities, you dive into it and you do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, I get it. It's not easy in today's day and age. But just like there are cars out there that are pretty inexpensive, there are living circumstances out there that can accomplish what you want, and they don't have to break the bank if you're willing to be creative. Okay, maybe you have to live in an apartment, but there are shop situations available for you if you're willing to be creative, work some deals. I'll do some work on your car so that I can work on my car sometimes. Call in favors from friends. Swallow your damn pride. I mean, really. Work in your parents' garage if they're willing to let you. If you really, really want to do this, you're going to make sparks and dust. You're not going to make excuses. Well, I live in a rental house and it doesn't have a garage. You know what? There's a tent right here. That's what I would put up in my driveway or in my yard if the landlord would allow it. If it's inside and people can't see what you're doing, nothing they can say about it. Yeah, you got to check your village ordinance. There's always things you got to look into. But again, do you see opportunities or do you just see obstacles? When you think you can't do something, you won't. When you think you can do something, nothing will get in your way. So sometimes we got to get out of our own head. Sometimes we got to stop listening to the bull that we tell ourselves and really tune in to the mindset and the rhetoric of what we're feeding ourselves, because oftentimes, rather than finding opportunities, we're just creating impossibilities. I never thought I'd have a shop as nice as this with all the machines and everything I have. It's been a lifetime of hard work, going without, looking for stuff that nobody else wants. All of that stuff, and the number of cars we have. Again, not about the money, just a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, and not being willing to see things as impossible, but see everything as a possibility. I can just hear the comments now. Yeah, but. Yep, you know what? You just stuck your butt in, and the moment you butt yourself is the moment you won't even try. You really won't. So get your butt out of the way. Think about what are the possibilities in your circumstance. I'll be honest, I'm facing some stuff in my life right now. Aside from this, I'm struggling to see possibilities, and I really fight every single day. I'm going to take the expletives out of it, but I'm going to tell you something that a multi-millionaire business coach, she's a multimillionaire. She's also a business coach. She owns a very, very successful company. And she said something that I tell myself every single day. Stop taking so seriously. Play the game. Stop taking things so seriously. Play the game. I have to remind myself that every day. It doesn't matter whether it's the hobby, my business, my life. Stop taking it so seriously. It's all a game if you choose to look at it. Play the game and play the game to win. Get out of your own head, get your butt out of the way, and look at the possibilities of what you can do. Thanks for being here. I can just imagine the comments on this one. Your comments are going to reveal your mindset. The comments are going to be a direct revelation on you and why you can't. Or they're going to be a revelation of you and why you do. I'm Mike. Thanks for being here. We'll catch you on the next one. Whoa!